back to Love Your Food. This week we are doing a stuffed French toast recipe for you. We're going to be cribbing pretty substantially from our pain perdu recipe that we did on the channel quite a while ago. This is going to be a little bit different, and we're also going to be doing a sauce that is very similar to Bananas Foster, but with fresh Ontario peaches. It's right in the heart of peach season right now, and they are delicious. So we're going to be starting off with some milk, some sugar. We're going to be using a little bit of goat cheese, some eggs, some cinnamon, and also some nutmeg, a little dash of vanilla, some peaches, some butter, a tiny bit of bourbon, some brown sugar, and some stale bread. We're going to be using some baguette that is a couple days old by this point. You want to make sure your bread is stale, but not too stale, and also not fresh, or else this will not work properly. So first thing we're going to do is get our goat cheese ready to stuff inside the French toast. And we want to make sure we're doing little, you can do quenelles of this if you like. You can see Chef Caleb here is doing sort of the quenelle method. But you don't have to do it that fancy. You just want them to be pretty thin and small. Remember, you're going to be stuffing these into slices of bread. So they shouldn't have, little bits hanging off of them. You don't want them to be too thick. They don't need to be round like a ball. They should be pretty flat, actually. If you feel like some of them are smaller than others, then feel free to steal from the bigger ones to make the smaller ones, and then push them down a little bit to make sure that you're keeping everything in the right sort of dimension to fit inside of your French toast. So in order to be able to stuff these into the French toast, we are going to put those in the freezer. So we're doing this the day before so that we can freeze them overnight, and then the next day they'll be ready to go in. So the first thing we're going to do is get our bread ready. So we're going to give it nice thick slices. Again, remember, we do want to stuff these with cheese. And then you just want to cut a little pocket. So just to cut, open one side and try and carve out a little pocket on the inside. And we're going to stuff that with the cheese. Now we're using, as I said, some just plain fresh goat cheese. You don't have to. Any kind of cream cheese will work fine for this. You could even use a nice double cream brie if you wanted. That would be just fine. You still do need to freeze it, though, to make it pretty easy to stuff it inside, though. If you'd like, what you can do is cut the pocket before you cut it off the loaf. Might make it a little bit easier. And there we go, everything's cut for the bread, and we're going to start with our custard. So again, like the pain perdu, we are going to put together an egg and milk-based custard that we're going to soak these pieces of bread in, and then we're going to fry them once we've stuffed them with goat cheese. So we're starting with our eggs and some sugar. Now the sugar is going to add a little bit of sweetness. It's also going to aid in the browning, so it's going to make it a little nicer and brown on the outside once it's cooked in our pan. So we're just going to make sure that everything is well combined. So beating together the eggs and the sugar. All of the amounts are going to be in the description below. And then from here we're going to add a little bit of a few of our spices. So a tiny bit of vanilla. And get that mixed in as well. And then we're going to add some of our dry spices. So we're using whole spices, so we're going to add some fresh microplane grated nutmeg to this. And you could use dry spices for this as well, but we always find the flavor a little nicer if you have fresh on hand. So a little bit of nutmeg and a little bit of cinnamon. So we're just going to grate the cinnamon stick right into there. And give everything a good mix together. Get it all off the side of the bowl if you can, and get everything well combined. So once that's all well combined, basically we're ready to go. So we're going to add our milk. And that's the last part of the custard. This is ready to go once it's all well combined. And we're going to start soaking our bread. So you want to make sure you get all of the milk in there. Give it a good stir. And then you can briefly set the custard side while we get our bread ready. So we're going to take this casserole dish and just put a layer of the bread in the bottom. You can use a pie tin for this, whatever you have, so long as it fits all of your pieces of bread. Now, you don't have to do it all at once. You can do it in a couple of different layers or a couple of different batches. That's just fine. We're going to pour our egg mixture in, make sure everything is well coated and well covered. And again, the bread does need to be a little bit stale. That will help it soak up more of the mixture so that it gets all the way through. But if it is too stale, it will also not work. So a day old, 2-day old should be just fine. Much older than that, and it's going to start not working quite as well. So just make sure that everything is well soaked in and get your pan ready. So we're going to put some butter and a little bit of neutral oil into our pan just to help the butter to keep from burning. So canola or grapeseed or anything like that. And then we're going to take our cheese out of the freezer and just put it right into that little pocket we carved earlier in our French toast. Now you'll see a little bit of cracking happening. That's just fine. If it completely breaks in half or the cheese just pops right out, then you might want to start again on that particular piece. But if it's just a little crack, don't worry about that. That's going to come back together. The egg mixture is going to kind of hold it all together. Plus, we're going to be smothering this in peach sauce, so it's going to be a little harder to spot. So we're just going to cut our peaches into slices, into these beautiful wedges. It's right in the heart of peach season right now, and the peaches this year are excellent here in Ontario. It's been a very hot summer, so they are delicious. So like I said, we're just going to cut those into nice slices, and that's about as far as we want to go with those. We don't want to handle them too much. We don't want to cut them too small. We want them to still look like peaches while they're on the plate and get a lot of that nice peach flavor. So meanwhile, we're just going to check in on our French toast. You can see they're getting some great color on the outside. The cheese in the middle still not completely thawed. It's still a little bit frozen. So we're just going to turn those over and let them get a little color on the other side. You don't want to cook it at too high a temperature. You do want to let them cook pretty slowly so that they get cooked all the way through. And you can see just the beginning of the outside of this one, a little bit of the goat cheese is starting to flow. So once that is nice and soft on the inside, they are just about ready to go. We do recommend leaving them in as long as you're comfortable with until you get the color on the outside that you like. Get that nice sear on the outside. And make sure that the cheese inside is nice and melty. So we're going to get some butter and brown sugar into our other pan. So this is going to be our sauce. So much like the Bananas Foster, we're going to start with sweet and fat. So we've got our butter and brown sugar, and just get those well combined. And as soon as the brown sugar is melted, in go the peaches. So we're just going to get that right in there. Now peaches are pretty juicy. They're also fairly acidic. A tiny, tiny dash of salt in there. And then just get them coated with that sauce. So get that butter and sugar mixture on all those bits of peach. And give it a nice stir. Make sure it's all well combined. And we just want to get these peaches heated through. We just want them nicely cooked. We don't want to cook them down. We don't want them falling apart or anything. We still want a little bit of that peach texture to them. We just want them heated all the way through. And once they're pretty much warm all the way through, you can see that sauce is reduced a little bit and is getting nice and thick. They got that nice caramel color from the brown sugar. We're just going to add a splash of bourbon to that, just for a little bit of flavor. That alcohol is going to cook off right away. If we had a gas range, we might even be able to flambe it, but we don't. We're using electric now. And that's pretty much done. So once those are cooked all the way through, we are ready to plate. So we're going to get our French toast on the plate first with that beautiful melty goat cheese on the inside. And again, you can use cream cheese or double cream brie, whatever you like on those, as long as it's been frozen and you can fit it into that that little pocket you carve. And then we're just going to smother it in that beautiful sauce, which is sweet and tart and full of those amazing peaches. Absolutely delicious. Really, really simple. And that's it. That's the whole thing. really, really delicious brunch. We hope you'll give this one a try. Do make sure that your bread is the right sort of consistency before you start soaking it, and you can't go wrong. So if you like this recipe, please do like and subscribe. And if you have any recipes you'd like to see Chef Halo try on the channel, please let us know in the comments below. And remember to love your food.